Hello, everybody. Welcome to a Lights Camera Sports podcast presented by Chestnut Hill Technology. So happy to have you on board another week. And with that, we're so lucky to be joined by the one and only head coach, Jeff Hafley from Boston College. First of all, Coach, thank you so much for the time. We appreciate it. And welcome aboard the Lights Camera Sports podcast.
No, I appreciate it, Mike. Thanks a lot for having me on. You being an alum, I wanted to make sure, I know you and I have been in touch. I appreciate your support, and I want to make sure I can make some time for you. So thanks for having me on.
We really, really appreciate it, Coach. And like I said, Coach, we'd like to introduce all our guests. And I want BC fans as my primary demographic to really learn about you, who might not know your story, if you don't mind, first off. So I know you grew up in Montville. You went to Montville High School, Montville, New Jersey. Just talk about growing up in New Jersey. What did you like to do growing up? Was football always your primary sport?
Well, I grew up, pretty small town. I grew up in North Jersey, very close to New York City. No, I played baseball, I played basketball, I played football. I played all three, whatever season it was, I'd play anything that I could, just wanted to compete. Love being outside, just probably like most people. But football was the sport that, I love the most. I love college football. I love the NFL. And from an early age, I knew I wanted to coach. Even when I was in high school, I knew I wanted to be a coach. So that was really important to me. And that's why I wanted to go on and play college football, and try to keep learning and meeting people. And I mean, that was always my aspiration. I knew I wasn't going to be a very big time player, and that wasn't going to be my career and my future. But I did want to coach, and I love the game.
Then you went on to Siena. Talk about that experience. How did you go to Siena? And when you played football there from 97 to 2000, what was that like? And your whole college football experience?
Yeah, I went to Siena, which was about 2 hours north in New York, upstate New York, where I grew up. They recruited me pretty hard. I really liked the head coach. He's actually the one who recruited me, Ed Zaloom. He actually went to WPI and gave me my first job coaching running backs at Worcester Polytech. So him and I hit it off. Went there, moved from a high school quarterback to wide receiver. Things were going really well my freshman year, and then my legs started to bother me. I developed stress fractures in both legs. I continued to play to the point where I developed something called compartment syndrome, where I couldn't feel my feet. My legs were going numb. So eventually I had to have surgery on both legs. I had to do that twice. So in and out of surgeries, I kept playing, did some things on the field. But during that time, that's when I really took another step and said, you know what, I want to coach. Helped out while I was on crutches and couldn't run or play. I'd be in the booth during the games, helping them chart things. I'd be watching film with the staff at a young age in college, helping out my friends who, were playing and maybe couldn't understand some things we were trying to do. And then I came back, played, finished out my senior year, played, and then after that, I went with the coach who recruited me to WPI in Massachusetts and coached the running backs my first year. So that was, not an all-star playing career by any means. I don't pretend that it was, but continued to really allow me to do what I love, and that was coach football.
And I'm curious, when you were at Siena, you're a Northeast guy. What did you know about BC when you going back from your playing days, if anything? Maybe you didn't even think about BC, but what was your thoughts coming from Siena and playing there in the late 90s? Did you ever watch BC at all?
Yeah, I mean, growing up in North Jersey, BC was a team that we all watched. From a young kid remembering Doug Flutie to, a lot of really good tradition. I mean, I'd been to games. I'd been to games with my family.
Oh, wow. So you went to BC growing up.
Yeah, I went to BC growing up. We had, during our bye weeks at Siena, when we weren't playing, one of my roommates lived in Newton. So we would go stay with him. And I went to BC games on our bye weeks. I think I hung out in the mods a few times before the game. So I was very, maybe you were in there at the time. It was probably right around that time. So,
no, I graduated 2008, so I was a little too young. Middle school for me.
That was probably between 2001 probably from the late 90s to 2001. 2002.
Those are good teams with Tom O'Brien.
Yeah, they were good teams. So we'd come up, we'd hang out on campus, and I'd go to the games. And then when I started coaching, I always worked the BC camp. Boston College back in the day when you had all these overnight camps. BC's was the biggest one in the Northeast, and all the smaller schools would come, and all the high school coaches would come, and I'd stay in the dorms. I think I stayed in Walsh for about 3 weeks because I'd work every session, and then I'd stay in the dorms through the weekend because I had no money. I was just trying to make ends meet by working camps, getting paid. Met Barry Gallup. Barry took care of me. Barry's the best.
Wow.
And then, I'd hang out in the dorms, and then, venture into Boston on the weekends, come back, work the camp the next week, do the same, come back for 3 weeks. I'd stay here and work the camp. So knew all about BC, spent time here, watched games here, had a ton of respect for the school, for the tradition. This is somewhere, to be very honest with you, when I left the 49ers and went to Ohio State, it's because I wanted to be a head coach. And I circled a few jobs that really fit me geographically, identity, who I am, in places that I could see myself, and Boston College was one of them. So, it was very special for me to come here, and, I'm grateful to be a part of it.
And I was going over your coaching, your history, your tree this last night. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I got WPI, Albany, Pittsburgh, University of Pittsburgh, Rutgers, then the NFL, Tampa, Cleveland, San Francisco, and then Ohio State and BC. Was that your track?
Yeah, I started off at WPI coaching running backs, and that was one of those, basically like an intern job, but you're coaching your own position, you're recruiting your own area. Then I went to be a graduate assistant in Albany, New York. I started off coaching defensive tackles there, moved to linebackers, and eventually became the DB coach. And then I went to Pitt, and I stayed there for 5 years. I was a GA for a year and a half, and then I got hired full time. And Coach Wanstedt, he really changed my life and gave me a great opportunity. I was very fortunate there to be able to work with Darrelle Revis, who, congrats to him, just made it to the Hall of Fame. And, I say all the time, I thought I was a really good coach. It's just he turned out to be a really good player. And there's not many like him out there. And he's an incredible person. And then I was there. We were pretty good. We were a top 10 team, top 14 team, top 25 team. And then I went to Rutgers for a year. I had some good players there. Logan Ryan, we were a top 10 secondary there. Coach of DBs there. I had Logan Ryan, Deron Harmon, both played a long time in the NFL. Then I went to Tampa. In my first year, I was the assistant DB coach, and then I became the DB coach my second year. I had Rondé Barber again. Lucky to be around a Hall of Famer. Congrats to him. You want to talk about an incredible person. He was 37 at the time. I was 30. He kind of took me in, and we became really close. Showed me how to coach the NFL players, how to coach in the NFL. So I had him for 2 years. Aqib Talib was in that room. Aqib, another great player. So again, as I'm young, I'm getting around really good players, learning, coaching. And then I went to the Cleveland Browns to coach the DBs. I had 3 Pro Bowlers there. We were top 5 secondary in the NFL. I had Joe Hayden, Tashawn Gibson, who that was his first Pro Bowl. He just played well for the Niners. And then Dante Whitner, who's one of the best safeties I've ever been around. Phenomenal player. Coach Jimmy Leonard there, who was just at Wisconsin. So again, really fortunate to be around good players. And I went to San Francisco with Chip Kelly.
Yep.
And then he was fired after 1 season there. And I love Chip, and Chip's doing a great job at UCLA. And then when Chip got fired, the Niners kept me. Kyle Shanahan was taking the job. Kyle was with me in Cleveland. He was the offensive coordinator. Him and I were really close, going back and forth, talking a lot of football. So Kyle and I have a really good relationship. So I stayed on with the Niners. I coached the DBs there, and had Richard Sherman, Antoine Bethea, Jimmy Ward, just some really good players. Sherman's probably the 3rd Hall of Famer I've mentioned, and just very fortunate to be around really good players and really good coaches. Robert Saleh was the defensive coordinator. Him and I became very close, talked a lot of football. Obviously, he's now with the Jets. And then I kind of came to a crossroad, Mike. I had the opportunity to coordinate in the NFL. I could have stayed with the Niners. And then Ryan Day got the job at Ohio State and called me. And at first I told him there's no way I was going back to college football. I was an NFL guy. And the more I thought about it with my wife, we miss college football. We miss the relationships, the young people. And, I wanted to coordinate, and I watched the film. They didn't have a lot of success the year before, and I saw some really good players and kind of took a shot. I went there, and I was there for about 10 months. Again, had some really good players and a really good staff, and we went 13-0 and played good defense. And the next thing I knew, BC was calling, and that's I mean, that's my journey. I mean, I started off lining fields and cleaning helmets and making sure the equipment shed was right and set up my own drills. And I learned how to coach and recruit. And then I went to the NFL and really learned how to coach, because that's all you do. And if you don't, you will get exposed really fast, especially on game day. And, obviously I came here, and first year was COVID, had some success and battled through a lot. Second year was still kind of COVID. And again, went to a bowl game. Unfortunately, didn't play because of COVID again. And then last year we struggled, and I think the future is bright. We got a good young team, very young. Returned most of our players, and I think we're building it the right way. And then I think the future is bright. I'm really excited. I'm excited for spring. I'm excited to be back now in the office around these players and off the road. And college football is wild right now, man. Let me tell you. But I think we've had a heck of an off season.
So let me just go back to your career too. I don't think people realize you're a young guy, but you've had all that little stops and the amount of moving it takes and the coaching lifestyle. And you work in the BC camps till now, a relatively short time, coach. It's just talk about, if you don't mind, I'm going too deep, but just the whole coaching lifestyle, how tough it is year after year to move around.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. I mean, so I was at Pitt for 5 years, and that's a long time in coaching.
Time.
And then you get to Rutgers for one, and that was by choice. I moved on, but again, you got to move, you got to pick up, and you got to move your family, and you got to start over. And then I'm in Tampa for 2, and then bang, I got to move to Cleveland, and I'm in Cleveland for 2, and then I'm in San Francisco for 3. And that league, it's the NFL. You're going to move once every 2 years. I mean, it's hard. It's really hard unless you get on a team that does really well and has success. And then you're still probably going to move because you want to continue to climb. But for a coach, I mean, you got to have a really supportive family, a really supportive wife. And I'm fortunate to have that, because there's a lot of moves where I kind of get on a plane and go to work, and the family has to pick up and get the moving truck and show up. And it's probably harder for them than it is for me, because I kind of have a built-in group of people that I'm around, and there's new schools, and it's difficult. It's difficult for coaches. And that's, when I came here, a lot of people, they thought, I was just going to try to be 1 or 2 and leave. After my first year, Mike, the Lions called and wanted to interview me, and I turned that down.
As a head coach for Lions?
Yeah, the Lions called and wanted to interview me. They called the AD and put in a request to interview me for the head job, and I turned it down. We really like it here. After the second season, I had 2 schools call and want to interview me, and I didn't. And I signed a 5-year extension, and that was before the last season. So, I've shown that I want to be here. I like it here, and there's work to be done here. And It doesn't go unnoticed that we weren't good enough last year, but we're going to get there, and this is where I want to be. And that's, I showed that with my actions.
Last couple of minutes we have here. Ohio State, you're decoordinated to BC. What did you know, and what did Ryan Day, who used to be assistant coach here, what did he tell you about BC? What did you know about BC coming in addition to the summer camps you worked? But I guess, what was your mindset 3 years ago until now?
Well, I didn't go to Ohio State to leave after a year.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do that to Ryan, because I know that, I mean, it's hard when a guy comes in and installs some stuff and then kind of picks up and leaves. It takes time to rebound from that sometimes. And I didn't want to do that to Ryan. So we talked a lot about it. There were some other schools that were calling. And like I said, when I left the NFL, BC was a school I kind of had circled as a place that, I would want to be. So we had a conversation. I knew how Ryan felt about this place. And, he tried to make it work so I would stay. And ultimately, I knew enough about it. To me, Mike, and again, if we go over a few minutes, that's fine. So don't think you have to rush through this here. Because, I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you.
To me, I wanted to be, there were things that were important to me. Location was important to me, right? My family's very important. This is a great place to live. There's great school systems. There's great people. It's who we are. We're Northeast people. And it's somewhere where I felt comfortable moving my family and my 2 girls. And the academic piece was really important to me. Coaching the NFL, you get really close with those guys, and it's a really hard league, and it doesn't last long. And you could go 1 year, 2 year, 3 years. And then some of those guys, they don't have great degrees. They never had real internships. They never had set themselves up for life after football. And if I was going to come back to help people, I wanted to make sure I went somewhere where regardless of football, if I could help them get a degree, I could change their lives, because ultimately that's why I'm here. At the end of the day, if I can change lives, that's the most important thing to me. The academics is so important, and it's so good here at BC. You combine the academic tradition of Boston College with a major city like Boston and the job opportunities. I mean, that's a home run. And that was really, really important to me. The other thing is I wanted to go to a place that was going to do it the right way. And you mean, BC, is it going to be a little harder in some things? Yeah, it is 100%. But it's also better because we're doing it the right way. And I've said it, we're not cutting corners and trying to cheat. And if we do that and we continue to work really hard and get the right people, we're going to be really good. All that weighed into me wanting to come here. And ultimately, that's why I took the job.
What is it that you're looking for BC? There's obviously new facilities there. Recruiting, what questions do you hear from players where BC could improve and you can make that even that next step that you mentioned before?
Well, we just have to develop our young players. Last year 37 of the 44, 36 of the 44 in the 2 deep were first or second year players. I mean, you got to get old. You have to develop, and you have to have seniors and fifth year seniors to really go on a roll here. We had a lot of key contributors, especially late last year. I think you saw the young talent that we have. I mean, I think the misnomer is I've had 2 recruiting classes. This is my 3rd that's coming in right now. So the freshmen and sophomores, I know it was year 3, but I had 2 classes. I got here after the signing date was already done. I was coaching in the playoffs. So again, no disrespect to anybody. We have great players, some great ones that are older, but we're young. We're really young. We need to develop our players. And when you start to look right now and you go in the weight room and you see some of these kids are starting to look different, it's because they're also getting older. We played in a league this year with a lot of 5th and 6th year seniors. We didn't have a lot of 5th and 6th year seniors. We went down to NC State with a freshman quarterback and a freshman wide receiver in a 2-minute drive and beat them with a lot of young guys on that team. Now, we had some vets too, and I won't take that away from them at all, some really good ones. But we need to develop these young players physically, mentally, and teach them the game. So by the time they're seniors and 5th year seniors, I mean, we're getting where we want to be. We brought in some good transfers that I felt like we needed to at certain positions to raise the level of competition. And that's something that was really important to me as I looked at things that I needed to do better this offseason. I think we signed 8 at key positions that now we have depth and we'll have competition at. That's the key to everything. So really those are the things, Mike, that I'm looking at.
And do you think specifically though BC can compete with a Clemson and can win the ACC championship? That's the number one question I get is, can BC, just with the resources available to you, can they win in an ACC
Well, I mean,
championship?
you just pick Clemson, right? I mean, you need to. Clemson's the gold standard of our conference. And, we're up 28-10 my first year against them and we lose. So we lost. The second year, we drop a snap on the 10-yard line going in to score to beat them there. And no one's beat them there in how many games now? I mean, it's been a long time, right? So
yeah, 2007, I believe.
Yeah, you're a BC guy and you want to win, and our fans want to win, and I want to win. And I don't think anybody's going to take a job if they don't think they can do it. I think you have to have goals. And you just can't say, I want to get here. I think you have to gradually build up to those goals. And that's what we're working to do right now. And we're giving everything that we have, and I will continue to do that.
And then looking back 2022, the number one question I get is the offensive line. How can we progress and make that better for 2023?
Easy. Stay healthy and get experience. You have a freshman All-American at center. You have a left tackle in Ozzie Trapilla, who I think is going to be a star. You get Christian Mahogany back, who was injured. You have Kevin Klein coming back, who was injured. I mean, last year was difficult, not just because of the youth, but because of the injuries. And now we have a lot of guys who played, and now a lot of guys have experience, and we need to develop the older guys because they're getting better. And then we brought in some transfers to compete. I mean, we brought one kid in who started every game at left tackle for an ACC school, and we brought in another guy to compete who was an all-conference player in his conference. And then you got all the guys that played last year, and they go out to practice, and and they need to work their asses off. And it needs to be a physical practice because we need to run the ball, and it needs to be revolving around those guys. We have more numbers. We have good young players. So I'm excited about our future up front.
That's a great segment. My last question. 2023 now, Coach. Looking ahead, looks like you have the 38th, according to Rivals, best recruiting team coming in. Do I have 21 commits? Is that correct? Off the high school?
In 2023, I think we brought in 17.
17. So, okay, the 2022 I was looking at. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we brought in the 8 transfers. So I saved some room for transfers. So it's a smaller class, but I really like the players. I think you'll see kind of like last year. I mean, we played a bunch of those freshmen like Joe Griffin and, Broom and Franklin. And, I mean, we got some good young players, and I think you'll see the same thing with this class.
And what should we expect? I like the schedule a lot. No Clemson on the schedule. I think that's a good one. I like that. But what do you think 2023, just the mindset? Obviously, you're looking for an offensive coordinator. You could say if you know who it's going to be right here. I know you can't announce it, but what's your take for the mindset for let's start offense first, then defense, just going into 2023.
Well, I'll just kind of sum it up. I think we're a
yes.
I think we're a team that has a lot of energy right now watching us in the off season. I think it's their attitude, it's their effort, they're energized. I think the last couple of games with some of the success some of these young players have had has given them a taste, and it's pushing them a little bit harder. I think our team is really becoming close, and I'm not looking ahead right now to 2023, the season. We got work to do. The offseason's been hard. It's winter workouts, it's early morning lifts and drills, and spring practice starts. So what are we going to look like in the spring? What is the identity of this team? Every team's different, Mike, and every year is different. And who is this team going to be? And that's what we need to develop now. And that's why it has to be hard now. And then we'll find out what we look like in the spring, and then we'll get to training camp, and then we'll worry about 2023, the schedule. But these guys will be ready. They have a really good attitude, and I like the way they're clicking right now.
What is a goal? You mentioned we got to go through spring, though. Well, what's a realistic goal you think for 2023 Boston college football?
I'll answer that in training camp once I see what we got. We got a lot of goals to hit before we get to that one.
And then lastly, Emmett Morehead, do you think he's always the focus on a QB? You think he's feeling good as we head into that year? And or will there be some competition in the QB position?
Well, I think there's competition at every position. But Emmett's a guy that's starting to lead this team. He led them last year, and those last 4 games, you could see it. And going into this offseason, he's trying to make it his team, and you can see that in every way. And the guys believe in him, Mike, and I think that's really important. The offense believes in him. The defense believes in him. The coaches believe in him. He's got an incredible presence about him. He's got a toughness. Obviously, he has the size and the arm talent. And he's played now a little bit. I mean, he had some success against Duke, and then he did what he did against NC State. He showed some toughness at the end of the year when he got knocked around a little bit. So you got a team that believes in him, and now you got a guy who's trying to lead. And he's young, and we need to develop him. But he's got a chance, and I'm really excited. He's a smart, tough guy who he loves ball. There's no one going to outwork him. So I'm excited about him, and I'm excited to see what he can do. Like I said, I like this team. They're young, but they're talented, and they got a lot of energy, and they're good kids. So, but I appreciate you having me on, man. Coach, like I said, I respect the fact that you went here, and I'm glad I could help you out.
And I appreciate your time, Coach. My last question is,
you got a lot of last questions, Mike. You've said that like 5 times now.
But you got to let me know how you like Boston and your family. How do they like Boston? How are they living there? And what do you like outside of campus? What do you like to do for fun in summer and for relax?
Well, I mean, when I get away, I go hang out with my wife and kids. It's I'm not a guy that's going to go spend 10 hours golfing because I don't have a lot of time at home. So when I do, I need to be around my family. So whatever it is, I love living here. They love living here. And that's a big part of why we are here. Which is very important to me. So I appreciate you asking that question.
Okay, Coach, thank you so much for the time. Appreciate it. And listen, I was there, Matt Ryan, those big times. It's a lot of fun. And the Boston community really gets behind it when the winning's going, you're competing. I remember a big time game against Virginia Tech. The Red Sox won the World Series, and BC almost dominated the coverage of that time. So when the train gets going, Boston's a fun place to win. So best of luck, Coach.
I appreciate it, Mike. Thanks a lot for having me on, man.
Okay, take care.